Hello, everybody. Happy Thursday and welcome to today's installment of Tour Pro Talks. I'm Genevieve White, travel and tourism copywriter and coach, and I'm joined today by JJ Hazan, who is a London tour guide, a foodie, and also the founder of London Comedy Tours. And I've just discovered from talking to JJ just before we went live there that he actually comes from a long line of tour guides. So tour guiding really does run in his blood. Welcome, JJ.
Thanks very much, Jenny. Lovely to be here. Well, I'm not here. I'm in London, not in Shetland, but you know what I mean. Virtually here.
Virtually here. Well, it's just to tell you're not in Shetland, or you might have to be wearing a jumper and a jacket as well. It's pretty chilly here
Oh,
today.
it's hot down here in the south. Literally, I
Yeah,
have a little fan
yeah.
on the underground when I'm travelling. It's really hot.
Oh, must be quite sticky conditions for tour guiding, actually.
Yeah, it is. Luckily, sometimes I'm in a coach. Walking around's also, pretty hot at the moment. But I have my trusty hat and put the factor 50 on because I'm kind of a bit ginger. I look kind of Scottish, actually. I did go to university in Scotland, so I feel Scottish. But yeah, so it is. It's pretty hot out there. I'm in the Cotswolds tomorrow for a full day.
Oh, wow, how lovely. Okay, I've just realized as well, I've totally forgotten to say hello to the audience. Hello,
Yep.
everybody. Thanks so much for joining us today. Also, hello if you are watching on replay. Do feel free to say hello, say where you're from, and yeah, make any ask any questions that you might like to ask of JJ. We'll be talking for the next half hour. Okay, so JJ, let's start. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey into the world of tour guiding? I know that your father and your grandfather were both tour guides. So was it something you always wanted to do?
No, not at all. And yet, my father and my nonno, my Italian grandfather, were both tour guides in Rome. My grandfather was a very good one. My father had let's say, slightly more dubious business strategies, but and I try not to copy those. But I think my whole life has kind of led towards becoming a tour guide, and I really wish I'd thought of it 20 years ago, because it just kind of fits. I mean, it's this wonderful mixture of being a host. You're looking after people, whether it's a couple through to 50 people in a coach, which I've got tomorrow. You're sharing knowledge, you're sharing experiences, you're learning all the time, all the time, all the time. London, I mean, I probably know an eighth of London, even though I'm a consummate Londoner, think I know it backwards, can drive anywhere blindfold on my motorbike across London. But to be honest, I literally will know an eighth. I have tour guide friends, specialists in Jewish culture or Shakespeare or whatever. And I'm a kind of broad and fun London tour guide, I think. And I am broad. I do comedy tours, I do food tours, I do coach tours, I do private, bespoke, London tours. So it's quite wide. So I think I know lots of things, but not in depth. That's probably my strength. But that means you can find a hook with your group, however small or big they are, because you'll have something in your life, and I'm quite old now. So there's something somewhere I've done or I've experienced, because I travel a lot myself, that then allows me to hook either a gag or a fun experience to link with that group, and that connects you very quickly. And comedy is brilliant for that. Um, I've done 5 years of improvisation, and you can, when I've taught improv, you can have a group that don't know each other, completely disparate group of people, literally laughing in 2 minutes and connecting and just throwing their fears out the window. And I think being a tour guide, you need to link to that group really quickly, because then a, they'll go with you where you want to go, and b, you can make sure you know what they want to do, what their needs and desires are, even if it's a kind of organised tour rather than a bespoke or a planned one.
Absolutely. And I think you've hit the nail on the head. I mean, connection is just such a key part of being a successful tour guide. And laughter, as we all know, is a great way of getting people to connect. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that laughter element in a moment. But first of all, hello to Katrina Fox, who says, "Hi, JJ, made it. Looking forward to hearing all your experiences on the road." So hello,
One of my
Katrina.
bosses. One of my bosses. I better not say anything too bad about the company I
Your
work for.
bosses is watching you. Oh my goodness. Oh yeah, we better be very careful then. I
No,
was going to ask
she's
you a little
great.
bit more about your dad and his
Yeah,
yeah, what you were saying about him, but we'll maybe not ask you that right now, especially if your boss is watching. I've got some more
fine.
questions for you.
No, she's very nice person.
No, it's lovely. She's come to support you today. That's really cool. Okay, so my second question for you today is you just mentioned about the laughter element.
Yeah,
Obviously, laughter's a really important way of getting people making that connection, and it's something that I'm assuming a lot of tour guides will try and incorporate into their tours one way or another. But you've gone a little bit further because you've actually do a comedy tour
yeah.
of London. What inspired you to do this
Well,
comedy tour?
I have a background in comedy. I did stand up for a couple of years, and I do improv live and online. And I did when I was in theatre. I was mainly a director more than an actor, and I tended to do comedies, even Shakespearean comedy around Poland or some weird and wonderful things. I specialised in an absurd American writer called Christopher Durang and did all his premieres in London. So I have quite a comic background, A as a performer, B as a love of comedy. Um,
Mm.
and then I looked through it and I just, when I started going into the tour guide world about 3 years ago, I thought, that's really weird. There's no comedy tours. I mean, they don't exist. There were hundreds of food tours, and I was delivering food tours around Borough Market, and then bespoke food tours as well. So I was already doing that, and I thought, and so I got together with a friend of mine called Cliff, who I've known for years, 20 years, and he runs a company called Premier Walking Tours. Very good company. They specialise in Jack the Ripper, um, Harry Potter, those kind of very popular tours. And so he has the engine already and the sales mechanism. So we designed it together. I did the content kind of design, but he was very good. He knows London well. So we came up with 35 stops, 2 hour tour. So it's nice and tight. We do it at the weekend. I deliver it. Um, now, now, Cliff is a very good, when you say incorporating comedy into a tour, Cliff's a great example of a tour guide. He has delivered hundreds of tours, but he's an analyst. He's very analytical, very organized. Uh, and how can I put this? I hope he's not watching. He's not naturally funny. It's not a natural thing for him. So he has to work and when he's delivered the comedy tour, which he's done a couple of times, he has to kind of practice the gags. And whereas I think with me, I don't think I do jokes. I don't have any joke. I can't remember jokes. My brain is so, ugh, I can't remember any. Literally, I read a joke this morning and I can't tell it now. It's awful. But in terms of reacting with humour to either what someone says or picking up a word, or a great one with Katrina's company, EF Tours. I work with a lot of Americans, mainly young people. They'll say a word, and of course that word means something else in English from American, and that gives you an immediate jumping point to create humour from. So there's a lot of that goes on, and I think that's just more my particular personality rather than every tour guide has to be funny, and some are not. Some are just really knowledgeable. Take your blue badge guides. I've met a few. Don't tend to be funny, and that's fine. They've got deep knowledge about Bath Abbey or the Stonehenge or whatever, and that's great. That's what they're there for, to deliver that deep knowledge. And I think my role is more to be a host, to be a cheeky chappy, a cheeky Londoner, to represent that type of London character, which probably is near me anyway. So I'm not really playing a role. I'm just playing a slightly enhanced version of myself. and making it fun. Infotainment, not just lots of information, but making it a
Yeah.
fun experience.
So the information is still there. You are still
Yeah,
delivering historical, cultural
yeah.
context. Then it's just the way you're delivering it. Here's a comment from Les, who is actually a Shetlander. Hello, Les.
Hi,
Nice of you
Les.
to watch. Les is a stand-up and improv comedian, and he is also a tour guide. And he says, "I like to introduce comedy into his tours. After all, they're here to be educated and entertained." I'm guessing you'd agree with that, JJ.
100%. And,
100%.
and Les mentions here he's done stand up and improv. The improv is much more applicable, much more. Stand up isn't really, because stand up, you really do have to learn jokes. That's why I only lasted 5 minutes. Only learned 5 minutes of jokes. So, but improv, where you work on your feet, you're literally given a character or given a situation, and then you have to do hopefully something funny with it. And you don't even try to be funny. It's just that the situation and character working against an opposite character, for instance, will be funny. So you don't try to be funny. The scene is funny. You and your partner working together are funny, hopefully, and then things develop from that. So using improv skills, thinking on your feet, reacting immediately to something. Don't let the brain think about it. Just react to what you get given. Um, and I think cross cultural is really good for that, where you have different cultures. So on my coach tours, I'm doing one in the Cotswolds tomorrow. I'll have Americans, Canadians, Brazilians, Indians, maybe some Eastern Europeans, hardly any English. And that gives you great things. So, for instance, if someone's late, which does happen, and they're Indian, or it doesn't, in fact, doesn't matter where they're from, any country, I can then use that they're on Indian time. It's a joke, but it also is a slight admonishment because I don't want them to be late again because it affects everyone else. So I'll use humour wherever possible, not to then put someone down, but to be applicable in the situation. So
Mhm.
something like that might be an example.
Okay. And how does it work? I mean, talking about, intercultural, the whole sort of intercultural aspect of tour guiding, where you've got like a group of people from mixed cultures. I mean, you're talking about a very kind of free-flowing, improvisational kind of comedy where you are just kind of reacting to people on the spot. Does that present any challenges in terms of, potentially offending people? I
Yeah,
mean, is
it's
that
a
something
it's a great question, and the answer is yes, it could do. But if you connect with someone from a different culture with joy in your heart, humor, and the want to connect with them, not to make fun at their expense, but to enjoy, going across that cultural divide. I don't think you can go wrong, and we're in an interesting world at the moment. PCism is a very dominant force across all sorts of levels, but that maybe occasionally a joke might go wrong. It may not translate. That can happen, but I think it's your attitude to it that defines whether you'll have problems or not. If you go back to the 70s, not a great period for anything, including fashion, but the comedy in the 70s was really awful because what they did was they used cultural differences to make fun of those cultural differences. Mind Your Language being a great example. The
Oh,
70s
yeah.
Manchester comic.
That is terrible. Yeah.
So all the gags were making fun of the Pakistani guy, making fun of the Indian woman, who didn't communicate well. But you can have a lot of fun with an Indian woman on a tour. I had a family the other week, and the older woman wasn't walking very well, so I was just able quite casually and thing to try and get her to hurry up when it's obvious she couldn't, she had and she liked that because it's human. It connects to the human side of someone. Their culture's not irrelevant, but you shouldn't be weighing up too much people's culture. Yes, you apply some sensitivity to it, but we're all human and people enjoy interacting at different levels, where as long as it's with a good heart. I think that's the key on humour, and I'm sure Les would agree that. I mean, when you see stand-up comics that are mean, it's not good humour, not good anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, okay, let's move away from comedy for a little bit. I'm sure
Yeah,
we'll come back to it to talk a little bit about the personalization aspect of your tours, because I know that that's something you enjoy
yeah,
doing with your customers, working together to create a personalized tour experience. So tell me a
yeah.
little bit about how that works.
Because I kind of work across the gamut of tours, from literally designing or in partnership with the client. It could be a couple from America, for instance, through to a coach tour of 50. It gives me a kind of very wide range. But the bespoke tours, designing either a London tour or with some food, or a complete food focused tour for a couple or a family of four, let's say, is fantastic, because you're working with them to find out what they're interested in, what they want to try. Now, in the main, it's going to be fish and chips along the way if it's a food tour, because in America they don't have it much. There are places that serve it, but they've not had good English fish and chips. And we have two or three excellent fish and chip places. One happens to be in Borough Market. One is near Brick Lane. So I use that as a base. Brick Lane has lots of different food offerings there, and there's a very good fish and chip shop called Poppy's just near Spitalfields, and that's one of the bases I use. So I work out with the clients what they are interested in. Um, Sometimes they have kids, and the kids specifically want to have ramen or something. So
Mhm,
I do
mhm,
a Chinatown tour, and then I'll include ramen in that, even though I don't normally do that. So it's kind of adapting to stuff I know already, restaurants I know that do great duck, great dim sum, the bakery to get some food, the I don't know, Filipino ice cream place, Mamazon in Soho. So there's things I already know, and then I might add or take out something to make sure it ticks all the kind of spots that particular family want. So we discuss it, then I plan it, work out make sure we're within budget, all the rest of it, the usual stuff, make sure the timings are right, again, usual stuff, and the kind of logistical side. And if it goes to 3.5 hours, and some food tours do, they'll go over a bit. That's fine. It's not really uh, it's never an issue, and I always make sure I've not got a job, an hour later at the end of a food tour, because I know they can go on a bit. If it's a London tour, you can end it, you know, on an exact time. Um, I'll
mhm.
just make sure it fulfills what they want. They're paying a lot of money for these tours. I'm not necessarily earning lots of money on these tours. I'm at the end of other companies sometimes, but they are paying a lot of money, especially a family of four. So you've really got to make it the best experience you can for them. That's your job.
Mhm. And I think in a previous conversation we had, you did say to me once that the food tours, they were there was actually almost more laughs on the food
I,
tours than the comedy tour.
yeah, there's an irony. The comedy tour is fine. It's funny. There are some set gags in it, and you have fun in it. But it's also the history of comedy. There's nothing much funny about, you know, the Carry On history, for instance, the Carry On films of the '60s. When you get to a certain part of Soho, so it's. But a food tour, because it's relaxed, people really want to be on it. They want to experience those foods that you've worked out for them. You have a lot more fun. There's a lot more comedy that emerges. I mean, great example of, you know, you have certain Indian food, which they may or may not have had experience of, and, the mother or the father will say how they cook something, or what happens in America, or whatever country they're from. And you could just have a lot of fun with it. And because it's relaxed, and they really are there to enjoy themselves, um, even more than a kind of pure London tour, which I may end up in Borough Market, for instance, to finish off a tour. So I often will do the South Bank, kind of going through, Trafalgar Square down to Westminster, along the South Bank, and end up in Borough Market, because it's a good tour, and you go past Shakespeare's Globe and all the rest of it. So that's quite a good 3-hour tour. But if it's a pure food tour, it ticks every box in terms of them really wanting to be there and wanting to have fun. Whereas you could have that same family of 4 on the London tour, and the kids really don't want to be there. They'd rather be playing on their phones back at the Marriott or whatever. But the food tours are just cracking for everyone, including me, really wanting to be there, having lots of fun. And I get to eat all the nice food alongside them. So it's brilliant. I get a very nice lunch.
I think you said laughter is something that connects us all, and I think food's right up there with laughter, isn't it? So
Yeah, absolutely. And if someone makes a mess of their face, it's great. It's like fantastic. You can have fun with that. They don't know how to eat an oyster. Have a lot of fun with it. So that kind of thing is it just lends itself to fun and kind of humorous circumstances.
Yeah, and I suppose the burden of expectation is taken off you a little bit as well, because
Yeah.
they're not necessarily expecting to come out and it to be funny and it to be laugh a minute, but
No.
anything is going to be a bonus, so it just makes it more relaxing, probably.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
sorry, I've always
no,
had
carry on.
in the businesses I've run, which have been quite varied over my life. I've been an entrepreneur really mainly in the past. I've always believed if you can exceed the client's expectations in some way or other, then you've cracked it. And I think again, it's your responsibility. If you provide a service, whatever that service is, if you can go that extra mile to really make sure they have the best possible experience, then that everyone's happy. I go to bed happier. I mean, I get something out of it. It's not pure altruism. Really, if I have an enjoyable tour and I go away knowing that group has enjoyed our interaction, even Katrina's company, EF, some of my jobs are what I call bread and butter work. I go to the airport, I pick up a group of 20 Americans, and I take them 1 hour in a coach into London. But in that hour, I will be on the microphone, I will entertain them, we'll pass Brentford Football Club, I'll talk about football, we'll pass houses, and I'll talk about the difference between council houses, housing associations, and private houses, something they're not that used to in America. And we'll have a lot of fun during that hour. I will be the cheeky chappie from London, then I hand them over to another tour guide. And I enjoy that hour, and I could just sit there and do nothing and do my job and take them in. But unless they're all falling asleep and really don't want to hear from any cheeky chappie at all, I'll do that. I'm sensitive to it. Some of them have had major delays coming in from America. They don't want to be entertained, and that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, again, it comes down to reading the room, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, if you've just joined us, if you're wondering what we're talking about, this is Tour Pro Talks. I'm Genevieve White, and I'm speaking to JJ Hazan, tour guide in London. He is a comedy tours tour guide, and he also does food tours, and all of his tours focus on personalization and delivering a great experience by the sounds of things. JJ, tell me a little bit about the kind of feedback you get from your customers, and how does this feedback influence what you do and how you do it?
The PC answer might be, I study feedback and then, incorporate it into my. I don't. I mean, I'm very lucky. I'm very lucky. I have got 100% 5-star reviews on my bespoke tours, which cover both London and food. But I'm the first person to know if I've messed up. I really am. I'm very self-aware. If I've made a joke that's gone wrong, or if that family haven't enjoyed it, I'm 100% aware that that's what what's happened, and if I can, I'll do something about it. I did have a grandmother and her granddaughter, and the grandmother was quite a right-wing Zionist from Colombia, and a granddaughter. She was on a tour with her granddaughter, and there was nothing I could do to make that woman happy. I really, I worked hard, and although we had a couple of moments, she wasn't going to respond to my humor. She was not going to respond to anything except making her granddaughter happy, which is what I focused on. So I connected more with the granddaughter, made sure she was 18, I think, had an enjoyable tour, got as much out of it as possible. And she gave me a great review. And I was expecting, honestly, a 1 or 2 star review, that I was maybe inappropriate or, whatever. But, there were reasons why she was sad. I won't go into them. I did find them out. And she had every right to be sad. But, so I there's no way humor was going to be a tool to be used on that. So I, did my best and made sure that the granddaughter kind of got the most out of it, and that was absolutely her focus as well, for that particular trip. And it's nice to get feedback, but the truth is, you must never think you're suddenly, funny or great or whatever because you've got good feedback. Equally, you shouldn't think you're the worst, tour guide in the world if you get negative feedback. Yes, you should learn from it and pick. And if there's something to take from it, absolutely. But I try and stay in the middle of these things and not let. I, I was on Dragon's Den in 2008, and it's quite a long sequence. It's a 10-minute film, and someone put it on TikTok, and it got got 40,000 views or something. And if you read the comments, I am, I don't know, Goebbels personified. I'm the worst person on earth. No one knows me, but they just put all these comments up. I mean, that are scathing, and that I, was desperate and I needed money and all sorts of things. And I just look at it and laugh because it's like, what am I going to do now? There's nothing useful I can do with this feedback. It's not feedback anyway. It's just keyboard warriors having a go. But in truth, feedback is useful. One should apply it, but I don't let positive stuff get to my head, and I don't let negative stuff, dissuade me from being who I am. And it's not everyone's cup of tea. I totally would understand that, but I just try and do my best to make it the best experience possible for whoever I'm working with. It is that simple.
Mhm. Yeah. Ultimately, it comes down to a certain amount of self-belief and self-knowledge, I suppose.
Yeah.
You feel in yourself that it's going well, then that's good enough. Okay, I cannot believe it's actually almost time up, JJ.
I,
It's crazy. It's
I
gone so
told you
quickly. But I'm
we
gonna.
wouldn't get through many questions because I talk a lot. It's my
I
fault.
know. No. Yeah, it's great. It's all good stuff. But yeah, I think we have got like about 6 more questions to get through, so we might need to do a part 2 with you case. But I'm going to ask you one more question. Now, I like to see if to often finish if we can maybe incorporate something that might be a takeaway for people watching. So
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if anyone watching this is thinking, I'd like to maybe incorporate a bit more humor into my tours. Um, how can what advice would you give to somebody who's been watching you and thinking, I'd like to maybe I don't know if I'm naturally funny or not, but I'd like to try and bring a little bit of humor into my tours. What would you say to somebody that was coming with that question?
Um, well, in the past, I was a director, a theatre director, mainly doing comedy. So, I have literally done this professionally, if you like, coached comedy. The key thing is you have to be yourself. You should never, ever try to be someone else or to be like someone else. You have to be 100% genuine, because I don't think humor works very well if anyone tries to do things outside of their comfort zone, because it comes over as not genuine, and then it's very hard to engage with someone on a kind of humor level. So first, you know, you don't change who you are. Maybe try and understand a bit more what you find joy in, what you find funny, and then maybe look at passing that to someone else. I think that's a useful strategy because it's genuine. Uh, so it could be I don't know, you see some flowers as you go by, and then you've got something that was funny when someone gave you a bunch of flowers when you were 20 or whatever it might be. So, or that there was, some awful wooing involving flowers. So that's genuine. It's a story that's part of you. You're opening yourself up a bit, which is very important in humor. The people that tend to be the most successful in terms of comedy, stand-up comedy, tend to, have a version of themselves that's quite open. That they'll talk about their failures as much as their, well, probably more than their successes, and it's from those failures that humour emerges. Jack D, all sorts. The list is probably very long. Jimmy Carr, great example, uses the negative things that most of them are made up in his life to create humour. So I think that's the key takeaway. Don't try too hard. Don't learn, jokes for the sake of it. Although, if you say something and it works and it hits that particular audience, like you've got a group of American kids and you literally, there's a word you use with a certain accent and everyone laughs, then yeah, remember that because you can use it again. So don't ignore things that work. Try and build those into what you kind of deliver. But key thing is stay true to yourself.
I think that's really good advice. Ultimately, be true to yourself, maybe revealing a little bit of your vulnerable side,
Yeah,
and then keeping your
absolutely.
ears open for anything that's naturally occurring humor that people find funny, so you can use
Yeah.
that and maybe build on it. I think that's excellent advice, and yeah, thank you so much for talking to us today, JJ. It's been a real pleasure, and I must say to the viewers as well, I wasn't sure if I believed in Father Christmas anymore before this discussion, but JJ is actually, as well as being a comedian through the summer in the maybe quieter season in winter, he is also Father Christmas.
I
So there
am.
you go.
Yes. Yeah, I am. I am the real Father Christmas. There is none others, including the other 14 at what was it? What did I do a couple of years ago? It's in Ascot, Lapland. There are 16 Father Christmas huts, so there are 14 Father Christmases at one time. You don't feel at all like it's a factory, not at all. But yeah. So, and then you're in a room and 8 people in Father Christmas outfits, all talking about the football or whatever. It's very, very surreal, very surreal. But I love
Does
it.
sound
I enjoy it.
extremely brilliant. Just another string to your bow.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much, JJ, and thanks
Thank
to
you.
everybody. And see you next week for another installment of Tour Pro Talks. Thank you very much. Have a good Thursday. Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.